Somewhere inside you, there is a version of yourself that is comfortable with average. That version wakes up at the same time, scrolls the same apps, makes the same excuses, settles for the same results, and goes to bed having done just enough to get by, never enough to actually change anything. That version of you has made peace with mediocrity, has negotiated a truce with comfort, has convinced you that this is simply who you are. That version of you is lying. The Stoics were not gentle people when it came to mediocrity. They did not coddle the part of themselves that wanted to take the easy path. They did not make peace with comfort when comfort was the thing standing between them and who they were capable of becoming. They were ruthless. Ruthless with their excuses. Ruthless with their weaknesses. Ruthless with the version of themselves that wanted to stay small. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, wrote to himself every single morning not with self-congratulation but with brutal honesty about where he was falling short and what needed to change. Seneca did not coddle himself with comforting lies about his habits. Epictetus, who survived literal slavery, refused to let circumstances become an excuse for an average mind. Today, you are going to learn the 7 ruthless lessons that the Stoics lived by, lessons that do not flatter you, do not comfort you, and do not let you off the hook. These lessons are designed to do exactly one thing: kill your average self. So the version of you that was always capable of more can finally take over. Lesson 1. Stop negotiating with your excuses. The average self is a master negotiator. It has an excuse for everything. It is tired today. It will start tomorrow. The timing is not right. It does not have enough information yet. It needs to feel motivated first. The conditions are not ideal. And here is the brutal truth the Stoics understood. Every single one of those excuses might be technically true. You might genuinely be tired. The timing might genuinely be imperfect. And it does not matter. Because the moment you start accepting excuses as valid reasons to not act, you have handed control of your life to your weakest moments. Marcus Aurelius wrote, asterisk, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Asterisk. He did not say think about being one. He did not say plan to be one once circumstances improve. He said be one now. With whatever you currently have, in whatever state you currently find yourself. The ruthless Stoic practice is this: stop having a conversation with your excuses. Do not entertain them. Do not debate them. Do not even acknowledge them as legitimate participants in the decision-making process. The moment an excuse arises, "I'm too tired, I'll start Monday," "I don't feel ready," you do not argue with it. You do not even dignify it with a response. You simply act anyway. Because here is what the average self does not understand: motivation does not produce action. Action produces motivation. The feeling of readiness does not come before you start. It comes after you have already started, when momentum has built and the resistance has already been broken. Every time you wait for the excuse to go away before you act, you are waiting for something that will never fully arrive. The excuses do not run out. They simply get replaced by new ones. The only way out is through, act despite the excuse, every single time, until acting despite excuses becomes who you are. This is lesson 1 because it is the foundation. Everything else on this list requires this first kill: the death of your relationship with your own excuses. Lesson 2, stop seeking comfort, seek growth. The average self has one primary objective at all times: comfort. It optimizes every decision, consciously or unconsciously, around the question, what will require the least discomfort right now? And this single optimization, repeated across thousands of decisions, every single day, for years, is the reason most people's lives look exactly the same 5 years from now as they do today. Comfort does not produce change. Comfort produces stagnation. And stagnation, repeated long enough, produces decline, because the world around you does not stay still while you do. Seneca wrote, asterisk, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Asterisk. The Stoics actively sought discomfort, not for its own sake, not as some kind of masochistic ritual, but because they understood a fundamental law of growth that the average self refuses to accept. You only grow at the edges of your comfort, never in the center of it. This means the ruthless practice is to actively identify where you have been choosing comfort over growth, and to deliberately choose differently. The conversation you have been avoiding because it is uncomfortable. The skill you have been putting off because learning it feels difficult. The workout you have been skipping because it is easier not to. The decision you have been delaying because committing feels scary. Every one of these is comfort winning over growth. And every time comfort wins, your average self gets stronger while the version of you that was capable of more gets quieter. The ruthless lesson is this: when you feel the pull toward comfort and the pull toward growth simultaneously, and you are uncertain which to choose growth. Every time. Not recklessly. Not destructively. But as a default bias that overrides the gravitational pull towards staying the same. Marcus Aurelius did not become one of history's most respected leaders by choosing comfort. He became that by choosing, again and again, the harder thing, because the harder thing was the thing that built him. Lesson 3. Cut the people and habits that keep you average. This lesson is the one most people avoid because it requires confronting relationships and patterns that have been part of their life for a long time. But the Stoics were unflinching about this. Your environment shapes you more than your willpower does, and an environment full of average influences will produce an average life no matter how hard you try. Seneca wrote, **, associate with those who are likely to make you better. **. He did not say associate only with people who agree with you, who make you comfortable, who never challenge you. He said associate with people who make you better. And the implication, unstated but unmistakable, is that you should disassociate from people who make you worse, who reinforce your excuses, who celebrate your stagnation, who feel threatened by your growth and, consciously or not, try to pull you back to their level. This also applies to habits. Every habit you have is either building the person you want to become, or building the person you are trying to leave behind. There is no neutral. The hours spent in mindless consumption, the patterns of procrastination, the rituals of complaint and self-pity, these are not just wasted time. They are active investments in your average self. Every time you engage in them, you are voting for that version of you to remain in charge. The ruthless practice here is an honest audit of your relationships and your habits, without sentimentality, without the comfortable lies we tell ourselves to avoid difficult decisions. Which relationships in your life consistently leave you feeling smaller, more doubtful, less capable? Which habits do you return to specifically because they require nothing of you? You do not need to make dramatic announcements or burn bridges. But you do need to be honest. And once you are honest, you need to act, reducing the time, energy, and access that average reinforcing relationships and habits have in your life, and redirecting that time, energy, and access toward people and habits that demand more of you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, **, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. * applied here. The best response to an environment that has kept you average is not anger or confrontation. It is simply becoming someone that environment can no longer hold. Lesson 4. Stop waiting for permission. The average self is constantly waiting. Waiting for someone to notice them. Waiting for the right opportunity to present itself. Waiting for validation that their idea is good enough, that their work is ready, that they are qualified enough to begin. This waiting feels like patience. It feels like humility. It feels, sometimes, like wisdom. Better to wait for the right moment than to act prematurely. But the Stoics saw through this. Waiting for permission is not patience. It is fear wearing the costume of patience. And the costume is so convincing that most people never realize they have been standing still for years, waiting for a green light that they themselves have the authority to give, and have simply refused to give themselves. Epictetus taught *, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. *. There is no third party in that sentence. No external authority granting permission. No committee approving the plan. Just you, deciding what you would be, and then doing what that requires. The ruthless truth is this: no one is coming to tell you that you are ready. No one is coming to officially anoint you as someone who is allowed to pursue what you want. That permission does not exist as an external thing. It only exists as a decision you make about yourself. And here is what makes this lesson ruthless. The absence of that external permission is not a sign that you are not ready. It is simply the normal condition of being a human being who wants to do something meaningful. Everyone who ever did anything significant did it without a permission slip. They simply decided, and then they acted as if the decision had already been validated, because the only validation that was ever required was their own. Stop waiting. The waiting is not protecting you. It is preserving your average self, exactly as it is, indefinitely. Lesson 5. Treat your time as the non-renewable resource it actually is. The average self treats time as if it were infinite. There is always tomorrow. There is always next week, next month, next year. There is always, somewhere out there in the comfortable distance, a future version of you who will have more time, more energy, more clarity to finally do the things that matter. That future version does not exist. There is only ever now, and a long sequence of nows that, when added together, become your entire life. Seneca wrote with an urgency that should be deeply unsettling. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. Life is long if you know how to use it. The ruthless truth about time is this. Every hour you spend in the service of your average self is an hour that no longer exists, that cannot be recovered, that is permanently subtracted from the total amount of time you had to become who you were capable of being. This is not meant to create panic. It is meant to create clarity. Most people do not act with urgency because they have not genuinely confronted the finite nature of their own life. They live as if they have unlimited time, and so they spend it as if it has no value, on distractions, on procrastination, on the slow accumulation of nothing. The Stoic practice is to regularly confront this finitude, not morbidly, but honestly. Marcus Aurelius wrote about death frequently, not because he was obsessed with dying, but because the awareness of life's limits is one of the most powerful motivators for living it fully that exists. When you genuinely understand that your time is limited, that every average day is a day permanently removed from your finite total, the small comforts that used to seem worth choosing over growth start to look very different. They start to look like what they actually are. A slow trade of your one life for nothing of lasting value. Treat your time accordingly. Ruthlessly. As if it matters, because it does. Lesson 6. Do the thing you are avoiding, first. Every person has a thing. The task, the conversation, the project, the decision that they know matters, and that they have been avoiding, sometimes for years, often disguising the avoidance as prioritization of other things. The average self is an expert at staying busy with everything except the one thing that actually matters. It fills its days with tasks that feel productive but require no real risk, no real vulnerability, no real confrontation with the possibility of failure or rejection. The Stoics had a name for the kind of courage required to face what we are avoiding. They called it facing your fears with reason rather than running from them with distraction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." If you knew your time was genuinely limited, and it is, would you still be avoiding the thing you have been avoiding? Would the busy work that has been filling your days still feel like the right use of your remaining time? The ruthless practice here is simple to describe and difficult to execute. Identify the thing you have been avoiding, and do it first. Not last, after everything else is done, because everything else will expand to fill all available time, and the avoided thing will simply continue to be avoided. First, before the distractions have a chance to claim your energy. This might be a conversation you need to have. A piece of work you have been putting off because it requires your best effort and carries the risk of judgment. A decision about your life that you have been delaying because making it final feels frightening. Whatever it is probably the single highest leverage action available to you right now. And it is probably exactly the thing your average self has been protecting you from, under the disguise of being too busy, not ready, or waiting for a better time. Kill that protection. Do the thing first. Lesson 7. become someone your past self would not recognize. The final lesson is the culmination of everything before it, and it is the most ruthless of all, because it requires you to give up something that most people cling to without realizing it. Your identity. Specifically, the version of your identity that is built around who you have been. The stories you tell about yourself. The limitations you have accepted as facts about your character. The patterns you have come to think of as just who I am. The average self clings to this identity because it is familiar, because it is safe, because changing it feels like a kind of death, the death of the person you have been, even if that person was not who you wanted to be. And the Stoics would say, yes. That is exactly what is required. A kind of death. The death of the average self, so that something more capable can take its place. Seneca wrote about this transformation with striking clarity, asterisk. Throw out most of what you commend or value. It will not be enough, however, to retreat. We have to dig out the deeply rooted faults from our minds. Asterisk. This is not a gentle process. Digging out deeply rooted things is not gentle. It involves confronting the parts of your identity that have been holding you back. The self-image of someone who is not disciplined enough, not talented enough, not the kind of person who does the hard things, and deliberately, repeatedly, ruthlessly acting in contradiction to that self-image until a new one takes its place. This is the deepest meaning behind kill your average self. Not a metaphor for minor self-improvement. A genuine transformation, where the person you become would be, in many ways, unrecognizable to the person you were. Not because you have become someone fake or performative, but because you have finally become who you were always capable of being, underneath the layers of excuses, comfort, average influences, waiting, wasted time, and avoidance that had been covering that person up. Marcus Aurelius wrote, asterisk. The universe is transformation. Life is opinion. Asterisk. Your life, as it currently exists, is largely a reflection of opinions you have held about yourself. Many of them inherited, many of them never examined, many of them simply wrong. Transform those opinions, and you transform the life built on top of them. This is the final and most ruthless lesson, not because it is the hardest action to take, but because it requires the death of an entire identity. And from that death, something far more capable is finally free to emerge. Bringing it all together, the ruthless life. Let us be honest about something. These 7 lessons are not comfortable. They were not designed to be. The Stoics did not build their philosophy to make people feel good about where they currently are. They built it to make people become who they were capable of becoming, and that process, by its nature, requires confronting where you currently fall short. But here is what makes this ruthlessness different from cruelty. It comes from respect. The Stoics were ruthless with themselves and with each other because they believed, fundamentally, that human beings are capable of so much more than the average life that most settle for. The ruthlessness is not an insult. It is an act of faith in your actual potential. Stop negotiating with your excuses, because you are capable of action without them. Stop seeking comfort over growth, because you are capable of becoming through difficulty. Cut the people and habits that keep you average, because you are capable of an environment that elevates you. Stop waiting for permission, because you are capable of deciding for yourself. Treat your time as the finite resource it is, because your capability has a deadline, whether you acknowledge it or not. Do the thing you are avoiding first, because you are capable of facing it. And become someone your past self would not recognize, because the person you have been was never the limit of who you could be. The daily practice of killing your average self. This is not a one-time event. Your average self does not die in a single dramatic moment and stay dead forever. It is a daily practice, a daily choice, repeated, until the new pattern becomes who you are. Every morning, your average self will offer you the same deal it has offered every morning before. Stay comfortable, delay the hard thing, choose the path of least resistance. And every morning, you have the same choice the Stoics made daily, to recognize that offer for what it is, and to refuse it. This refusal does not need to be dramatic. It does not require grand declarations or radical life overhauls overnight. It requires something much simpler and much harder: consistency. The daily, unglamorous, often invisible choice to act instead of negotiate, to grow instead of comfort, to face instead of avoid. Marcus Aurelius did this every single morning, for decades, as one of the most powerful men who ever lived, and he still needed to remind himself, in writing, of these same principles, because the pull toward the average self never fully disappears. It simply gets weaker, day by day, choice by choice, as the new identity grows stronger than the old one. That is the practice. Not perfection. Not a permanent transformation that happens once and never needs maintenance. A daily renewal of the decision to kill the average self, over and over, until what remains is the person you were always capable of being. Conclusion: kill your average self. The version of you that is comfortable with average, that negotiates with excuses, that chooses comfort over growth, that surrounds itself with people and habits that ask nothing of it, that waits for permission, that wastes time as if it were infinite, that avoids the things that matter most, and that clings to an identity that has long since stopped serving it. That version of you has had control for long enough. The Stoics would tell you, without softening it, without comforting you, without making it easier than it actually is, that version of you needs to die. Not because you are bad, not because you have failed, but because something better has been waiting underneath that average self the entire time, and it cannot emerge until the average self stops taking up all the space. Seneca wrote, asterisk, "Until we have begun to live, life passes." Asterisk. Begin. Today. Ruthlessly. With these 7 lessons as your guide. Stop negotiating. Choose growth. Cut what holds you back. Stop waiting. Treat your time like it matters. Face what you have been avoiding. And become someone your past self would not recognize. Kill your average self. And let what you were always capable of being, finally, completely, take its place. Please subscribe for more.